Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of the Grinch? I'll start with the background, and then I'll move to my analysis. The Grinch is a fictional character that was created by Dr. Seuss. The first reference to the Grinch was in a book written by Dr. Seuss in 1953, but the character is best known as featured in a 1957 book titled How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In 1966, the book was adapted into an animated television special of the same name, which propelled the Grinch to notoriety. In 2000, a movie titled The Grinch was released. Jim Carrey played the character. The Grinch is a humanoid creature with a face like a cat. He's covered in green hair and shaped kind of like a pear. The Grinch was abandoned when he was a baby in the city of Whoville. The city is located within a floating speck of dust on a snowflake, which I guess makes it a popular but hard to reach tourist destination. It's inhabited by the Whos, which are small humanoids who have a canine snout and are covered in hair. If hamsters who walked on two legs conspired to form their own city, Whoville is what I imagine the result would be. After the Grinch was abandoned, two sisters raised him. He didn't do well in school. His behavior deviated from social norms. He was also the victim of a bully, who later becomes the mayor of Whoville. Here we see another example of a narcissist rising to power. The Grinch tried to impress a girl named Martha, but his efforts, like shaving his beard, were only successful at drawing the ridicule of his peers. The Grinch developed a hatred of the Whos. He moved to Mount Crumpet, which is just north of Whoville. His residence was right on a cliff. Therefore, he was able to look down on Whoville and contemplate his anger and resentment. The Grinch lived there in isolation for 53 years. He only has a dog named Max to keep him company. As Christmas was approaching 1 year, the Grinch had enough of the happiness of the Whos. He was tired of their singing and gift-giving during the holiday season. He believed their happiness was based on materialism, so if all their Christmas gifts disappeared, they would be miserable. The Grinch dressed up as Santa Claus and tried to disguise his dog as a reindeer. He made his way to Whoville on Christmas Eve and burglarized all the houses. He took all the gifts to a nearby mountain where he intended to destroy them by throwing them over the edge. On Christmas morning, he eagerly awaited the sounds of misery from Whoville, but that's not what he heard. Instead, he heard the Whos singing as if nothing happened. They didn't need the gifts because they had each other or homeowners insurance, one or the other. The Grinch has a change of heart. He brings the gifts back to the city and joins them in their Christmas celebration. The residents of Whoville failed to take the Grinch into custody, even though he committed dozens of felonies. Now moving to my analysis. Let's take a look at the mental health and personality factors for the Grinch. There have been many theories about possible mental disorders affecting the Grinch. For example, some have speculated that he may have depression. He does appear to have low mood, but it does not appear to be episodic. Maybe he has something like persistent depressive disorder, like a continuous low-grade depression as opposed to a cyclic severe depression. One could argue that he has schizoid personality disorder. After all, he is a loner with no close relationships. But this is not a great match because the Grinch is heavily invested in the activities of Whoville. He's not involved personally, like he doesn't interact with them, but he's watching them from the cliff. He's trying to understand their feelings, and he's annoyed by their happiness. I think a decent argument could be made for antisocial personality disorder. We see criminality, impulsivity, and a reckless disregard for safety, but in the end, he does have remorse, so that's not a good match either. I don't think any mental disorder really captures the Grinch's behavior too well. As far as his personality, the Grinch has high openness to experience, low conscientiousness, low extroversion, low agreeableness, and high neuroticism. He appears to be a vulnerable narcissist. He is vindictive, sadistic, insecure, and angry. Here's what I think happened in the case of the Grinch. As a baby, he was abandoned. He felt unwanted. He could look around and see that he did not fit in with the residents of Whoville. He was bullied in school, and when he tried to pursue a love interest and failed, it only became worse. He tried to integrate into the community. He attempted to progress through normal activities like finding a romantic partner, but he couldn't do it. At this point, he could choose to remain in a hostile environment or leave and be isolated. He separated from the Whos because of his sense of shame and the fact that they rejected him, not because he truly wanted to be isolated. His desire was to be a functioning member of their society, but he lost hope. He no longer believed that was possible. I find it interesting that Whoville Social Services didn't even bother sending anybody to check up on the Grinch. I guess they just figured he was up on the mountain and it was all going to work out for the best. Over time, the Grinch develops a plan to destroy his rivals based on the premise that they were shallow, materialistic, and hypocritical. He comes to believe that these are the reasons he was rejected. It wasn't anything specific about him. Rather, it was these systemic problems in the culture of the Whos. He finds a way to make it not about himself. He shifts all the blame to the Whos. He rationalized. Now his hatred and desire to destroy their happiness did not seem petty. He was able to view his criminal actions as necessary. The Grinch managed to spin things around to where he was the hero. He was the good guy. He was doing them a favor by exposing their materialism. What doesn't make sense about the Grinch's behavior is the conversion experience at the end. Upon finding out that the Whos' happiness is not tied to their material wealth, the Grinch should have been devastated. This destroyed his theory about an overarching cultural problem and restored the theory that they rejected him because he was different, flawed, or inferior. The Grinch's celebration with them at the end only reinforces his lack of insight. What has changed with the Whos? What protects the Grinch from another rejection? There are some deep systemic issues in Whoville. The pleasant ending for the Grinch is not realistic. There is actually personal growth necessary for the Grinch and the Whos, probably requiring years of therapy to resolve. Those are my thoughts on the case of the Grinch. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope it can be a time of celebration, joy, time with family, and good memories. For those who have to contend with their own version of the Grinch in their lives, I hope the Grinch has an unexpected, unrealistic, and out-of-character epiphany which spontaneously resolves the conflict. Merry Christmas.